Downing Street plans to introduce digital ID cards have been met with a fierce backlash from privacy campaigners. The Prime Minister's top aide, Dominic Cummings, is reportedly leading the charge in a bid to revolutionise the use of government data. The digital ID card plans come after it emerged that over half of 2.6 million people who made a claim for the COVID-19 self-employment income support scheme had no prior digital identity credentials. And the government says digital identities could boost UK GDP by 3% over the next decade. Well, Number 10 says ID cards will make identity checks easier, such as registering with a doctor or helping landlords to check tenants' immigration documents. The government says the cards could also help with remote purchases, such as age-restricted products or homes in different locations, both on and offline. They could also give people easier and safer access to a range of digital services, including online mortgage applications. And former Prime Minister Tony Blair, who supports the idea, says the IDs could help people prove whether or not they have coronavirus, benefiting industries such as travel. But critics aren't convinced, warning digital ID cards could increase state control by expanding centralised databases of sensitive records, which private companies could access. Privacy concerns recently intensified after the government's COVID-19 contact tracing app and track and trace plans revealed data safeguarding flaws.
If the public don't trust that their data is going to be secure, they are not going to engage with the system, no matter how seamless or frictionless. If the government thinks that this is a cool thing to do from their new control centre that Dominic Cummings has created, they will just create another system that doesn't actually look to the needs of citizens.
Well, to talk about privacy concerns surrounding the digital ID plans, data privacy expert and government advisor Jamal Ahmed joins me now. Jamal, what do you make of digital ID cards then? Are they long overdue?
So I think when it comes to digital ID cards, we can see that the future is moving towards a digital era, and it makes sense to have things that are digital. However, the issue here isn't about having digital ID cards, it's about having a central database by government that we don't necessarily feel comfortable or trust with our personal data. And we can look at the examples of the recent A-levels algorithm fiasco and also the flawed contact tracing app, where this government has failed to give us confidence that it understands how to process data, how to collect data, and there is no way that the public would be comfortable with such a centralized database of such sensitive and special category data.
Indeed. On the other hand, though, so much personal data is accessible online already, isn't it? I mean, does it really matter if the government creates a centralized database, given that?
So when you put everything, the special category, the sensitive information of every single person on this island into one central database, it can cause a lot of damage if that was to get into the wrong hands. And we can see from examples of when the NHS was hacked, how people had no access to their patient records, how there was so much disruption and a lot of people were severely impacted. Now, if all of that information is put into the hands of one centralized database, and given the track record of this government of failing to look after data properly, failing to put in the appropriate safeguards, it's huge cause for concerns. Now, the main concern here is Dominic Cummings is behind this, and the General Data Protection Regulation, the privacy law that came into Europe in 2018, enshrined the rights of every single individual that's a European citizen. And we can see that people around the world are looking up to the GDPR and adopting it in the USA, in Brazil, in Nigeria, in parts of Asia. And what we have, on the other hand, is a blog by Dominic Cummings who says that it's a legal and bureaucratic nightmare, whereas on the other hand, everyone is celebrating the fact that we have privacy as recognized as a basic human right. And what this digital ID project that he has in mind is going to do is going to erode those privacy rights and infringe upon those rights that we hold dear.
Well, if you could be reassured that it could be safe and it could be maintained, look at the convenience, though. These are the arguments. Buying alcohol online, banking, registering at the doctor's, buying a house. And you can see basically how having digital ID, if it could be guaranteed to be safe, would make life a lot more straightforward, wouldn't it?
We already have ID. Everybody has a driving license or a provisional license where they can go to the shop and buy alcohol. When it comes to buying property, the conveyancing process is so long, but having this digital ID verification is not really going to make that much difference into the whole transaction of buying the property either. And when it comes to going to the hospital or the doctor, we already have NHS ID. We already have a national medical card. There is no need for this additional digital ID to be put into place database in such a centralized system until such time that the government can give us, the public, confidence. I mean, in 2010, we saw that the government tried to introduce ID cards and there was public outcry. We're now 10 years later on and we have a stronger piece of legislation in place to protect our rights. And I don't understand what the government is thinking they're going to achieve by doing this.
But also 10 years on as well, we're in a different situation, aren't we? The economy is under threat. We're trillions in debt. We've got COVID-19. The government's saying it could help boost the economy, tackling identity theft. Also a powerful tool in tackling terrorism and also proving people's COVID-19 status. So therefore, powerful arguments in favour.
I mean, that's right. But if we look at the kind of contracts that have been awarded by this government, we can see that 11 private sector organizations have been awarded contracts for the initial annual tracing. But how many of those organizations are friends with Dominic Cummings?
Indeed. And at that point, we'll leave it there. Jamal Ahmed, thank you very much indeed for talking to us. Thank you.
Thank you.